And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, director at WEIU TV and Radio. Today, got two of my employees or co-workers in the studio. Producer, director, Ramin Cabracion here. Welcome, Ramin.
Good afternoon. Happy Monday.
And the lady with about so long a title, I'm going to know it's Public Relations something, Kian Armstrong.
Hey, everybody.
So we're here to talk about another This Is Our Story that'll debut this week on WEIU television. But I also want to get behind the scenes on some of it. But I thought, Kian, for the listeners who maybe just always check it in for the first time, do a little just background on what This Is Our Story is for the folks who have no idea what we're talking about.
Okay. Well, our story has been going on since April of 2014. And since then, we've produced now 15 programs on local communities, the events, the people, the places around their community that make the community what it is. It's local history. It's an important facts about it. It's where the community is going, important people there, and just why that small town is important and all the different factors that make it what it is. And so, like I said, we started in 2014 in Effingham, and Thursday night we're back in Teutopolis, and it's going to be our 15th program.
Now, Ramin, this will be the 15th program, and you've been involved with almost all of them probably all of them in some way, shape, or form since you've been here. What makes Teutopolis stand out as you think about as we look towards Thursday evening?
It's one of those communities that I think if you live in Central Illinois, you kind of know where it is and you kind of know what it's all about. I mean, maybe you associate it with basketball, maybe you associate it with the church. Well, you're going to hear about those and a whole lot more. I mean, they have a good number of local businesses. They're very proud of their schools. They're going to get a lot of history on the church early in the program, and we'll go over that probably in a bit. And they're obviously very proud of their basketball. So it is truly one of the most unique towns we probably have in Central Illinois.
I would agree, and I want both of you to answer this next question. But is there something that you learned that you didn't know about Teutopolis? I'm going to call it T-Town so I don't mess the name up. Is there something each of you learned about T-Town that, I mean, we know about the basketball and the German heritage and the churches, but was there something else?
I'll go first. For me, I'm a history buff, and the amount of history you're going to hear in the first two segments, probably the inner history. I mean, the broad history is maybe one thing that everybody knows about, but just the inner workings, and that's what I love about this Our Story program, is I'm a history junkie at heart, in addition to loving sports. So hearing about the people and kind of the events that circulated with these things, I mean, the number of buildings that have been in that one location, that where the now Teutopolis Banquet Hall is, the number of buildings that have been there in the last 100+ years, it's amazing to see the transformation of the town.
Ken?
Well, I think what I learned about Teutopolis is that the way the town was set up when it was first originated is basically the same way it operates today. And it set the foundation with the church and the school and how the folks there support one another. And if there's something that needs to happen, they make it happen, and then they figure out how to sustain it and take it into the future. And that's exactly how it's been operating since day one.
The details are Thursday, 7 o'clock live. You two are going to be hosts. We'll talk about the hosting a little bit later in this show. But I want to now talk about what makes the show is the stories and the storytellers. So, Ramin, why don't you start with some of the storytellers, and Kian, maybe some stories, and go back and forth and just share your ideas amongst our listeners like I'm not even here, and just talk about those folks.
Okay, I'll start. We both have the list and the order of the program. Starts off talking about the church, the town origin. Very first storyteller is Rick Seymour from Seymour Milling. You're going to hear some German pronounced right off the bat, so we're going to get right into it and talking about the history of the church. And it really does, this program really does a good job of going chronologically in order, especially early in the program, how things are linked from the origin of the town, how the church got going, then how the schools kind of got put in there. You're going to hear a story about the Notre Dame nuns in there at some point. It truly is a unique community when it comes to the church and the way the school is united. We have a very complex story that involves two storytellers that talks about kind of that combination of the church and the school. And it was very delicate to construct, and our other producer, Lacey Spence, worked on that one. So I know she had a lot to work with, but I think you'll understand it, and it'll definitely explain a lot of things in the community.
I think that we're also looking forward to sharing what the Franciscans found And so it's not just the nuns that you think about, but, you know, there is just that one church in Teutopolis, and everything revolves around that one church, and the education is so unique, like Ramin said. You are going to be learning about the history of some businesses there, Seymour Milling for sure, and then some other businesses that are long-lasting businesses. Some individuals who have led some interesting lifestyles, and, you know, a lot about what people are doing about coming back and supporting Teutopolis and moving back into the community and being a part of taking it into the future. The sports, we're going to learn about the state championships for both boys and girls basketball.
I'm going to intervene where we actually, Ramin and I, about a year ago, talked about we could probably do one about T-Town on just sports only and not even get into the other stuff.
And it's more than just basketball. But for what it's worth, and since we're teasing the program here, these will be the final two stories. We have two basketball stories to end our third segment of stories. And we go in the order that they happen because, as Jeff knows, and anybody that's listening out there, in today's IHSA basketball championships, it's the girls and then the boys. Well, back in 1986, it was the opposite. So our final two storytellers in that block, Kevin Ruhal was a guard there for the T-Town 86 boys championship team. And Doris Carey, she's now Doris Carey Zaruzin, she'll tell us the story of the 86 girls championship. And those were both the first state titles for both of those respective programs for T-Town. And they've obviously had more since. And we'll share some of that, and hopefully they'll be there on Thursday night. We can talk more in detail about those two teams.
As this show, This Is Our Story, has ebbed and flowed over the years with Jaina and Wanda Kay and Lacey, but this will be the first one that you two are going to be the talent. So we talk about, as you look forward to Thursday, you guys have been working together. Your offices are both next to mine, so I have heard you nothing but talk for the last 2 months. And I mean that in a positive way about the details. But it comes to Thursday, when you're out there and you're hoping people buy DVDs or Blu-rays, talk about the workings together. What will happen on Thursday? What can our viewers expect?
I'll go first. Kian is a veteran at this. She's been a part and in front of the camera for almost all of these. This is the first time since we kind of split the last couple of hour stories up. So this is my first time being in front of the camera. I'm usually working the camera or punching the buttons in the control room. I've had experience being in front of the camera with City Spotlight and a few other things. But I've seen it from the other side of the lens, as they say, to be in front of the camera. I'm going to be excited. I'm going to do a little bit more homework before the actual Thursday night. So this is kind of my warm-up. So I'm excited to share my perspective. Kian's been my cheerleader to kind of get me excited to be in front of the camera for 3 hours because we think it's going to be a pretty long one. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to any live interviews we get to do with anybody that comes by, because those are kind of like the snippets, the things that you had to cut out of the physical stories. And based on the people I talked to at the premiere night, we might have some things to talk about.
There you go.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun night. I'm really looking forward to hosting this program with Ramin. He gets excited about the history and the stories and the people. We've met so many wonderful people in Teutopolis that has supported our efforts, and they're going to be here Thursday night, and they're going to keep us energized. And I just think it's been a fun production to work on, something completely unique from any other town that we've worked on, just because of the unique history, and that's something that we've shared our interest in throughout the entire production.
If I can interject, being in the community and shopping and doing things, and they ask me, what are you working on, since I know where I work? It's like, oh, so you're working on a program on T-Town. It's like, yeah, we got 29 stories. You have 29 stories on T-Town? It's like, are there 29? There are. There's probably a few that, I mean, like with every one of these hour stories, it's like, what did we leave out? Well, it's 29 stories on T-Town, and it really does cover from start to where they are now.
Yeah, I was just going to ask this from the details. So 29 stories, but 32 storytellers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Three of our stories have two storytellers.
There you go. So that's cool. One of them, and I can't remember her last name, Dakota, the singer.
Mm-hmm. Dakota Danielle Esker.
Yeah, she is a country singer from T-Town, and just talk about her and kind of like a little. I don't want to give too much of her story out because I think it's going to be really eye-opening on Thursday. But talk a little bit about her and what she's doing special this coming Thursday night?
All right. Well, Dakota is coming in town from Nashville. She grew up in T-Town, and she wants to be a singer, a country singer, and she's working hard at it. And she has a special song that's going to be a part of our program. It's going to open the show, and she's going to be here and maybe do a few, audio clips throughout the evening for us to keep us going. But she's an up-and-comer, I think, and I think people are going to appreciate the song that is tied to this program, because it definitely explains what the town is and what they do there and who they are.
We were lucky enough to have her a part of the program, not only as a storyteller, but until she shows up and does whatever she does on Thursday night, I'm excited to see it. She was one of our last storytellers that we taped almost a month ago. And she hasn't made it big yet. So the great thing is we get her while she's kind of...
We can hopefully say this is like a stepping stone, right?
Stepping stone, rise to stardom. But she comes back to the area and performs locally at various venues within Effingham, T-Town. And so we have some of the footage you'll see in her story is from her performing at that same day that we interviewed her at the Brickbat there in T-Town.
Yeah. Maybe our local country station across the county would maybe play her song too. Do we know anybody about that?
We can confirm from Dakota that they do play the song a few times.
All right. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't have to go
for
too
sure.
detailed. I'm going to ask a serious question, Ramin. I know if anybody knows anything about Ramin, he is in the edit base here, constantly working on getting television out to you folks who watch WEIU TV. Toughest one of these to edit? 29 stories. I know you didn't do them all, but of the ones you did, toughest one to edit?
Well, I think it's a tie between the two of the ones that I had the most substance to work with, and I'll start in the chronological order. The very first storyteller that we taped was all the way back on April 1st by himself, because we had some scheduling things we had to work around, and it was Mike Ewing, a longtime resident of T-Town, and his story is on Bussy's Tavern. Bussy's Tavern no longer exists right now. It's a former establishment there in downtown T-Town. I think its location is somewhere where the Seymour Milling offices are now. And we let Mike talk, and he talked for like 50 minutes. Now, my homework between now and when the program airs is I'm going to try and go back, time permitting, and write down all the people that he name-dropped that he recognized or saw at Bussy's Tavern. This was the place where people hung out. I think the last year it was open was 1978. So we allowed him to name drop a few people in his story, but in 50 minutes he did name drop some of the most prominent names in the community. So sorting through Mike's 50-minute epilogue, or whatever you want to call it, but the hardest story for me from an emotional standpoint would have to be Elizabeth Widener, the young FFA member. She's one of the, I think it's maybe the second or third youngest storyteller we've ever had on the program. I'm not going to give any of her story away. If Kian wants to, that's fine. But Elizabeth has had a long, hard-working journey. She's been involved in so many programs in the community, and she wanted to share her love for T-Town FFA.
Yeah, and that story will probably go down in the annals of history as I can already tell you one of the best stories of the 15.
One of the most emotional, if not.
If you're a human, you're going to like it.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're not, then no.
She's an amazing young lady.
She is.
Wait till, if nothing else, Thursday, that's the one you want to wait up for to watch, because you guys did a great job on that. It's pretty touching.
I'm not just trying to live in the moment. I already told Kian this a couple of times. I'm not just living in the moment here, but all of these programs have been wonderful to work on. They're all great because they talk about these communities. I think this is going to be one of our best, because the substance you're going to see in the first three segments. I'm looking here at the stories just in the third block of stories, which is all about the schools. Those first three sets of blocks are absolutely outstanding as far as the history and the way the storytellers, this program is really good quality.
It is. And speaking of the schools, if you've had a child go through the schools or are currently in the schools, you're more than likely going to see them in the program, because we were able to take so many of the photos that they sent us, and there are a number of faces in this program showcasing the people in Teutopolis. It's amazing how many people we showcase.
We already previewed the basketball stories, and those are the last two stories of the school block. It starts off with the oldest you can get is the country schools, and we've had a history of talking about the country schools in our communities in these programs. The country schools had to go away in 1955 with the consolidation act that Illinois had to set. But we have a storyteller, Jean Sahi, did a wonderful job. She talked about her experiences in a schoolhouse. There's some nice old pictures with some pretty prominent people. We have the current superintendent of T-Town Schools, Matt Sturgeon. That's where you're going to see the rapid fire of all the kids' faces that have kind of gone through it. And then we have a wonderful story from Ken Probst, and he talks about the CEO program that really got going in Effingham, and CEO is everywhere across the country. And it's really from the brains of Craig Linvall, the late, great Craig Linvall. So the story is about him, the CEO program. So there's a really good old photo of Craig at the beginning of the story you would definitely want to check out.
Yeah.
Good answer. Was there one that was just the easiest or fun to edit that you couldn't wait to get in there and I always say pop the tape in. We don't pop the tape in anymore. But
Jeff, you know the answer to that. For me, it's the basketball
I knew
stories.
it was going to go sports.
But for me, the reason why is, and the answer for any one of these stories, when I have the ability to use the most visuals. This is a visual program. If we're doing this Issues and Attitudes, it's just an audio. It's audio. Just turn the mics
not really.
on.
We have TV now.
We have TV now, but
we got guys in there working.
We do. They're punching the buttons. They're doing a good job.
Up.
But these stories are the most fun when we have the most stuff to work with, the most ammunition, resources, whatever. And with the basketball stories, we had the blessing of the IHSA, which they have a nice courtesy at the end there. There's footage we had 3 games to work with the boys from '86. We had one for the girls. And so when you have the visuals to back up what these storytellers tell, merge those together, you got a home run.
Do you know that we're going to possibly have the state trophies here on our set Thursday night for both of those games?
The surprises keep coming.
I know. I love it.
So you got to watch. You got to watch to see what we got. It's live TV.
Thursday at 7 o'clock on WEIU TV. Ken, I know a lot of people you helped and behind the scenes and sponsors and banquet halls. List a few of the folks that you'd like to thank. I know we'll thank them again Thursday, but talk about some of the people that helped get us to where we are ready for Thursday.
Okay. Well, we had a list of champions that started off with us, and a number of them are also our underwriters. So Heartland Dental, Teutopolis State Bank, Village of Teutopolis, Seymour Milling, Dietrich Bank, Teutopolis Banquet Hall. Folks associated with those businesses were also on the champion group. Jane Summers, who works at Seymour Milling, she was like our super champion, and she enlisted Angie Custer and Tina Schwenke to help. We've had some help from Connie Nospich and Joyce Volling and Marilyn Harmon, all at the Monastery Museum, which is been such an amazing help, because that's where we produced the program. We recorded the stories there, and they've got a number of items that have been a part of the program as well, as far as visuals. Dave Tegler, Jeremy Daters, Craig Bierman. Those are some of the folks who have contributed. And then, other people supported the red carpet premiere last Thursday night, and more folks are going to be supporting the live night this Thursday too.
And this is a large production when you think of 29 stories.
It's right around the benchmark of, when we started this program, the first 3 communities were Effingham, Mattoon, Charleston. They were all around 30 stories, and then we kind of went through the roof with Paris and Marshall. But I think the average is right where we're at. Still, even though it's the average, 29 stories is a lot of work.
There you go.
It's been a lot of work, and hopefully if we get the reception for Thursday night that we had this past Thursday for the premiere, I think we'll all be very happy.
And the idea is that we do these stories, and we do sell underwriting, and we do want the people in T-Town to understand that, we put on a show about the history of them that stays on WEIU television, not just Thursday night, but in perpetuity going forward. Mm-hmm. But we also want people to invest in the station on Thursday night, where we don't try to shy away from it. It is a fundraiser as well as great television programming. So can talk about what people can do Thursday night to help the station so we can continue to do the things that we do.
Well, between now and Thursday night, we first of all want you to promote the program, because it's going to be viewable anywhere in the entire world, because we're streaming it. It's not just going to be on WEIU TV. It's going to be, via over-the-air cable dish network, but streaming, but not only streaming on our website, but also streaming on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and on PBS Video. So we want folks to tune in and share with the people that they know that are outside our viewing area to call in or go online to WEIU.net and support the storytellers from their hometown, support us producing the program on their hometown, and getting a DVD, a Blu-ray. If you want it for yourself, you can do that. If you want us to send it to somebody as a gift, we can do that as well. They're both $75 each. 2 or more are $60 each, and you're supporting our efforts for local history production.
And for us, the Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas program was before this one, right before it. So we've been doing two of these kind of at once. And that was the first program. Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas was the first one we offered Blu-ray. So if you have a Blu-ray player and want to watch it in crisp, clear, high definition, that's an option also.
There you go. Ramiro, I want to ask you another question. I love the behind-the-scenes stuff. I think I'm hoping our viewers and listeners like that too. When you take a 20 to 50 minutes of video from a guest, and you have to get that down to, the vignettes are between 3 and 5 minutes on average. I mean, some maybe more or less, but you're trying to get between 3 and 5 minutes. How tough is that? Take us through a little bit of that process.
Whew, that's a really good question. That's maybe the one question I hadn't thought through, but it's really, you sit down and you try to figure out what is, in essence, what is the story. And then when you kind of sift through, there's, in TV, we work with sequences. So we lay down the raw sequence, which is basically the whole interview. And we chop off the beginning of the end that we don't need. And then we start kind of listening to what they're doing. And once we have the working parts, then it's like, okay, well, where does the story start? Kind of where does it end? When you have stories like Mike Ewing's that are 50 minutes, and Elizabeth Widener's that were 40-plus minutes, and just kind of picking the spots. I mean, it's like, it's a really good pie, and it's a great pie. I mean, what can you leave in there? So I'd like to say that we kind of know how the magic elixir of how to put a great story together, but when you have a great storyteller and they give you everything you could need, you really can't go wrong. Because, I mean, two producers are probably going to cut it slightly differently, so hopefully I've cut some of the right ones. Ken,
did you ever think that we'd be at this is show 15 of the episodes?
It's crazy.
And like in our meeting this morning, we're already trying to plan out the next couple of years. So
right.
it's this thing is taking off so
it's
good.
mind-blowing.
But I think something came up in our meeting this morning I want to share with the viewers and listeners is the fact that we live in a neat area where, WEIU is in the middle of this thing, but you have like Arcola, which is a unique community. Arthur's a unique community. We learned so much about Casey with the big things, and now you go to T-Town with their heritage and their history. So it's kind of a nice place for WEIU to fit in to tell these stories.
We're kind of right now with where we're going directionally. It's kind of hitting our southernmost communities. It kind of, for me, T-Town is not too far away from Cumberland County, and that Cumberland County, this is our story, which probably the most communities we've ever really featured, because we're talking a county. It's the first one we did more than one. And that one really surprised me because I didn't know anything about Cumberland County. I know some of the towns, but the same with T-Town. You think you know. And the greatest thing that I come away with this program, it has happened every single premiere night at the very end of the program. It's done. You start talking with some of the people, and a lot of these people are lifelongers. I learned something. It's like, well, you've been here.
That.
And I actually told Kevin Ruhal and Mick Daters, that's what I want to hear, because the streak is still alive. Because every time we come to these things, they say, I learned something. I've been here my whole life.
Well, and you gain such an appreciation for your hometown and the local community and the local history and the people. And I think that's what I appreciate the most, has been given the opportunity to meet all of these people that are now supporters of WEIU and friends, lifelong friends. And they continue to support our efforts. And, it's just, we have met a lot of people because on average, what do we have? 20 on average per story almost. 15 times over now. So, I mean, some less, a couple of them around the 15, but, some up in the 30s, and Paris had 44.
Paris and Marshall, we did those two. They were the fourth and fifth ones, and I still can't believe it to this day, we're going on like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Combined, we did that spring, like 84 stories.
Yeah.
Paris and Marshall,
Lots of
they were,
people.
not to toot their horn anymore, that was amazing, but this program is a large-scale program, 29 stories. The history is abundant and fluid, and you're going to definitely learn a lot about T-Town Thursday night.
We're talking to Ken Armstrong and Ramin Carbasoon of WEIU Television for the big premiere this Thursday night, 7 o'clock, WEIU TV. Did anything else surprise you, or interesting facts or tidbits as we head towards a wrap-up of this show? Is there other things that you want to get out about T-Town?
Just kind of like, when we do these Our Story programs, we're going to have similar-ish stories from one community to the other, but they'll have their own respective communities' flavor on those stories. What I found about this program, in addition to the great history, is the overlapping, and this has happened on several Our Stories, but I think this program has the most overlapping of people or things from one story to the other. Probably the most name-dropped person in this program is Sister Ethelbert, kind of the head lead nun, if I'm not
Right, I think so,
and saying
yeah.
it incorrectly, but she has her own story. But then the connection of the church and the schools. She wasn't just a nun. She also, for a short period of time, she was the very first superintendent of the school district and principal of T-Town High School.
Yeah, all three of them. I remember that in the story. Yeah.
Just the over-connecting, it makes for a lot of so this person with this person is linked. So hopefully that's some of the things that we can kind of share with our viewers on Thursday night.
Well, speaking of that, it really is a small world when you come right down to it, in all these small towns, and finding the personal connections. And I said this the other night at the red carpet premiere, the wooden shoe house, which is really neat because it really was the wooden shoe house where the wooden shoes were made by George Diamond back in the day. And come to find out, there is a personal connection there. Leo Kitten, who's the storyteller, is my aunt's cousin, and my aunt goes and stays in that house every summer. And this June, she's taken all of her grandkids. I had no idea. It's fun to connect those things.
And also, after we taped with her, our storyteller for the Notre Dame Nuns, which is at the beginning of our second block, is Rita Taley. And you said you're related to a Taley, you think?
Yeah, it's my aunt,
There you go.
the same aunt. And then we also have Linda Ruhal, who actually tells the Sister Ethelbert story, and she was one of our very first storytellers in the Effingham program back in 2014.
We have two storytellers in this program. We have repeat our storytellers. It's becoming an additional tradition of having people on that you've seen before. In addition to Linda Ruhal, we have Billy Esker Jansen was also a storyteller.
For Effingham as well, yeah.
Yeah, and she tells a really cool story about the golf carts, because T-Town is a golf cart community.
There you go.
Yeah. And T-Town is going into tomorrow, so that's going to end the program, Teutopolis for tomorrow. And so we lay out the program at the very beginning, how it started, all the important factors that laid the foundation, all the interesting stories in between, sort of, playing on your emotions here and there, and then ending it with where is Teutopolis going tomorrow.
There you go. And where will WEI be going after T-Town? Does anybody want to throw out some names of possibilities?
I think we're staying to the south, Jeff, and we'll leave it there.
There you go. So we'll see. We got lots of exciting news at WEIU. We have a Bob Spoo documentary coming up later this year. We have a Ted's documentary coming up. I'm terrible in July. I know it's early July, which people are really
Somebody was
excited about
asking, Mick Daters was asking about, Mick is the person you're going to see on Thursday night, and he started talking about the bar scene in Charleston, and he mentioned Ted's. And I said, you have a Ted's documentary going on, so look forward to that.
There you go. And that's going to be coming up. And we've been pushing a little bit. We've been pushing T-Town. As soon as T-Town's over, we're going to move into Ted's documentary time, and it's going to be exciting as well. So lots of good things going on at WEIU Television. I still say with the 11 or 12 person staff that we have, we do as much as any big station. So thank you both for coming in today and talking about it. Thursday, 7 o'clock, WEIU TV. Kian Armstrong, Ramin Carbacion will be our host.
And there's no wrong way to say it. T-Town, Teutopolis.
Really good basketball town.
Yes.
Whatever you want to call it.
Wooden shoes.
There you go. Well, thanks for coming in. Everybody have a great day. We are
WEIU.
88.9 WEIU FM.
Everybody have a great day. Thanks to our guys over here working. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.